We are going to have Nancy Kane on with us live here in just a moment. In fact, we do have her. We were having trouble connecting.
We got her.
But here we are. So joining us live now to conclude her series on the Enneagram and how it applies to the Christian life. She's program director of the Caritas Center for Christian Formation and host of the Leaving Church podcast. Welcome back, Nancy Kane.
I can hear you clearly.
Oh, great. So glad to have you with us.
Not a problem.
Okay, so Lauren, I think, was in charge of all that because it's finally her turn.
Yeah, I intentionally made Nancy not be able to connect. Sure. Yeah.
So
what power Lauren has.
The final two numbers in the Enneagram. So number 6 and 7 we're on today. Nancy, tell us about number 6s on the scale.
Well, 6s are very dear to my heart. My daughter types as a 6. I have a 6 wing with my 5. So I just love 6s. That's all I can say about them. I think we probably could finish the discussion by just ending it there.
See?
So fear not, Lauren. It's going to be okay.
Wow.
All we do is fear, isn't it, Nancy, though? So.
Yes, that's true. So the Enneagram 6 they think is born out of for children that had some high level of trauma, stress, where they didn't feel safe in their environment for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons. And so consequently developed a lot of fear and saw the world as dangerous and not really feeling that there was anybody there to protect them from it. And so as adults, they, again, see everything through that lens of kind of always asking them, what if this happens and what if that happens? As a personality, they're very warm-hearted. They got a great sense of humor. They're the people that you want on the team as well as in the church because they're always kind of gathering people together and fighting for the good of the group. And in that, they're also the best troubleshooters in an environment, like because they're used to looking to see where the danger spots are. They're always kind of scanning the horizon to see what the threats are and solving for it before everybody else sees it.
Lauren's head is getting really large right now.
Is it? Is it expanding?
Yes, expanding. Don't worry. It'll be humbled soon.
But the challenge that they have is being able to let go of the fear and go to courage and really believe deep down in their soul that God is taking care of them, God is for them, and that it's their faith isn't so much a list. While our faith is doctrine and beliefs, the core of it is the person, and that person can be trusted. But it takes a long time because there's been so much fear and also learned fear in terms of coping with it, that it's no small thing for them to enter into relaxing and really trusting that God is in the storm and can calm the storm for them.
Does that resonate with you, Lauren?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm always scanning the horizon for all the bad things that are going to happen and then trying to make a plan for if they do happen.
Does that sound like how it works, Nancy?
Yeah, exactly. And of the Enneagram numbers, the 6s are the most complex. Just when you think you figured them out, they'll show up as a different type. They'll show up with different characteristics. They can have two sides to them, a phobic and a counterphobic, and that's what makes them kind of complicated. Is the phobic side is like you're saying, Lauren, that they're scanning the horizon. Where's the fear? Where's the risk factor? But then the counterphobic is that they'll be the person who'll be like, You're afraid? I'm charging the mountain. We're going to jump off the cliff. We're going to do this. So on one hand, you see the phobic side, and then they can show up, 2 days later with, I'm not afraid. We can do this. But it's either both of those stances are solving around fear.
Can we circle back to the source of that fear? You mentioned something about family of origin, right? Can you remind us of that again?
So generally as children, in a healthy family environment, the parents are really so in tune with the children's perception, their personalities, their propensities, that they will solve for making sure that the child feels safe and secure. For whatever reason, these children in growing up felt that they weren't safe, that there was a lot of threats, Perhaps maybe they saw the parents under a lot of stress and then perceived, again, parents are under stress. If they're under stress, we won't be safe either, or I won't be safe either. And so it developed in them this kind of propensity of there's always danger on the horizon. There's always something to be afraid of.
And see, I'm always grateful for your honesty here, because I think as one of the ways to look at this is as a parent, right? And so you see that in your kid, and you can feel like a failure as a parent. And I know that's not the point. And you share that your daughter is a 6. So how do you even process that as a psychologist, that your daughter is a 6?
Well, and Chris and I have talked about this, is that it's really important, and I had to remind myself this as well, is that God places our children in our families because they have a journey with Christ as well, and that there's no perfect parent, and every parent does the best they can, and every child will have their own journey of redemption. And so for our children, we were in the throes of our Job journey when Krista and Eric were small. And so they saw a lot of hardship. They saw a lot of things happen to us that was really out of our control, but were, as Ray and I see so clearly now, providentially ordained. I mean, it's clear that God was, ordaining each of the things that had happened to us for our good, for His glory, and for our deep redemption. And so I think the upside of that is both of our kids have a great deal of compassion for people who suffer, because they know what pain looks like. They also have a great deal of compassion for injustice, for people that are poor, for the homeless, for people in need, because, again, we were really in the, that's where we were. We were almost looking at homelessness at one point. So whereas everything in me would have wished a different childhood for them, that just wasn't the case, as hard as we tried.
How did you release yourself from that desire to have a different childhood for them?
Well, I think in the middle of it, I could see, having my counseling background, I could see what was happening. And at one point, early in that process, I asked, Lord, do whatever I see, we're in a time of discipline and chastisement from you, but please spare our kids from this. And I very clearly heard him say, your journey is your children's journey.
Wow.
Yeah, and he deals with us as a family unit. So it's not just, we think individually, but he loves the family system. I mean, you see that through the Old Testament of the people of Israel. The system of the family is super important for him. And so now, them being in their 30s, I can see so clearly that pain really sets them apart as different. They're different from their generation. They're far more sacrificial and hardworking, and again, I'm not bashing millennials, but I can see now that it was working for their good, even though it at the time it just didn't seem right.
That's super helpful. I appreciate your transparency in that. It sounds to me like it's almost like it's a radical acceptance of the truth of the gospel forces me to accept I'm going to mess up my kids in some way, and circumstances will hurt them because sin exists, and we just do the best we can.
That is beautifully said, Brian. That is spot on.
You can write that down if you'd like.
Well, I think it's worth repeating, actually.
You know me too well. Okay. Nancy Kane, we're chatting through the Enneagram numbers. We've gotten all the way to the final number on the chart, and it's number 7. Tell us about the 7s.
So the best way to describe the 7 is Pharrell Williams' song "Happy."
Oh, really?
They are constantly singing that song. As children, as with all the other types, as children, they experience something in childhood or a number of experiences in childhood that was just too much for them to handle. And so they whitewashed it. So they just made a choice to not look at any kind of anything that's regarding pain. And consequently, then grew up into childhood always solving for where to make themselves happy and to have happy experiences, and to avoid anything negative or painful. So they're the people always looking on the sunny side of things. They're very optimistic and positive. They radiate joy, but it's more of it can be kind of a false joy because it's they're manufacturing it because they're looking for it. They're the best person in a party or gathering because they're always up, have an up mood and playful and fun. The downside is that they lack depth if they don't grow because the world is full of pain, and it's as we look to Jesus' model, a man who saw great sorrow but also had great joy, but that joy was came from knowing who he was and who his Father was, not because he was, in a sense, choosing to be happy. So the challenge for the 7 is to be able to really face pain in themselves, face their depravity, face their own brokenness, and see the need for the cross. Because 7s generally don't. They might give an intellectual sense of the cross of Christ, but it's much more of an intellectual sense rather than a real need for their own redemption.
It would seem to me that a 7 could hide in church pretty well, don't you think?
Yes, because they're upbeat, they're positive, people like them, they can have a good sense of humor. In a sense, they initially present as like, what's not to like about a 7?
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
But it goes to our larger point with, whenever we're talking about this, is the formation into the character of Christ is what we're about. And the only way to let that happen or to allow God to work that in us is we have to first face our own brokenness and our pain and our woundedness, the sin done unto us as well as the sin we do to other people. That is the only way towards formation. And of all the numbers, this one is the most resistant to that process. They will read a lot of books about spiritual formation. They'll like to go to retreats. They'll like to go to conferences. They'll love all that information. But when it actually comes to the applying of it, these are the numbers that there's a huge disconnect. The expression with the 7 is, for their own formation, is always chewing but never swallowing. So they're always taking stuff in because they like the experience of formation, but never really swallowing it to have it really change them.
Yeah, and as I think through this, there's been so many times where it's as if in church culture, the person like me who struggles with pessimism is the problem because we're all supposed to be optimists. And it sounds to me like both extremes carry their own sense of negativity, but no one ever talks about excessive optimism being a problem or happiness.
No, and I think the goal is to allow God to inform us with his reality. We all live in delusion. Either those extremes of either cynicism or this false optimism, where God is inviting us to see reality from his perspective, which is he holds both in his hands and invites us to learn how to do that as well. And so we look squarely into the face of sin in our own lives and sin in the world and the sin people do. We also look and see the God's redemption and his glory coming through and his consolation and his graces, as well as his mercy. And so it's holding both of those places. Whereas the 7s, like you're saying, they just default towards, it's all going to be good. The victory is ours. Yes, but Christ paid a huge price for that victory. And we must realize what that meant for our personal redemption.
And you know what? I think at the end of the day, I hope as people have heard us over the last couple of weeks going through some of the Enneagram personality profiles, it's not perfect. It doesn't fit everybody like a glove or anything. But it's this nice way to get started, at least, on the process of spiritual formation, which you do at the Caritas Center for Christian Formation. If you've longed for a deeper relationship with Christ, for more transformation in your life, more spiritual maturity, this is the way to do it. Go to thecaritascenter.com. Caritas is Caritas, thecaritascenter.com. If you can't remember that, just text us. We'd be glad to direct you there, 440-546-2255. And, of course, go check out the Leaving Church podcast featuring Nancy Kane and me. And we'd love to see you there. You can check it out. There's a bunch of episodes. We go through the stages of the soul and a bunch of other things. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts or at thecaritascenter.com. Again, the Leaving Church podcast. Always fun, Nancy. Thank you.
Always a delight. Blessings on you both.